palisade cells, they are long enough, which is filled with chloroplast where the manufacturing of the food takes place, and you have the spongy cells where the storage of the food takes place. So this is the chloroplast. Now here you can see the structure of chloroplast. Here you have an outer membrane and an inner membrane, plus if you can see the thylakoids, they are as if a group of coins have been put on each other. It is a stack of coins, and where the whole thing, it is known as grana. Okay, and you can see an empty space over here which is called as stroma, which is filled with fluid. And here you can see these are the cells of Elodea plant, of the Elodea leaf, and you can see the chloroplast, which is you can see on the side, which helps in manufacturing of the food. This is another diagram of the chloroplast where you can see the chloroplast and you can see the inner structure of the chloroplast. Now here you see the leaves are green. That is because of a pigment which is called as chlorophyll, and they have a large surface area so that they can absorb as much light as possible, so that they can get more food and they can use it for storing those glucose molecules. Now chloroplast also helps in making the oxygen. Now this is the stomata which I was talking about in the diagram. Here you can see this is for the exchange of gases, and this is mostly found below surface of the leaf, so that transpiration rate is less. Okay, photosynthesis, it absorbs light to make the chemical energy, which is the glucose, and it absorbs different colors of white light. The white light is reflected in, and the transmitted light is the green color. The main pigment is chlorophyll A, and the accessory pigments are chlorophyll B and the carotenoids. Now these pigments, they absorb all wavelengths except green. So why do we see green? Because the light which is entering the leaf, the light which is reflected is not absorbed. The green color from the white light which is reflected is not absorbed. And the chloroplast, again you can see this is the thing which is responsible for photosynthesis, and chlorophyll is present within the chloroplast. That is why you see the green color in structure. Okay. Now here you can see the visible light, it is a very small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And the light here, it behaves as packets of photons. Okay. And the wavelength of light, it determines which its color is, what its color should be, as you can see in the traffic signals. And this is the spectrum, absorption spectrum, where you can see you have the chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B and carotenoids, which shows that this is the chlorophyll pigment. Okay, now here we can see the light which is getting inside. You can see the light which is getting inside here. You can see the transmitted light where you can see all the colors, and here you can see the reflected light which is green in color. Okay, so this the light is divided here into three parts. There is the reflected light, absorbed light and the transmitted light. The light here, it is absorbed by the chloroplast, which and when reflected to us it seems it is green in color. कुछ गड़बड़ है. Okay, here you can see in the stage 1, here the chloroplast in the plant cell, it captures energy from the sunlight. Okay, and then in stage 2, we can see the sugars which are produced by the plant cells for energy. Okay, and then from the light the glucose is produced, the sugars are produced, and in turn the oxygen, it comes out through stomata which you find on the under surface of the leaf. Now here in plants and animals, here the waste products, they are removed by a simple process called diffusion. So here the oxygen is removed by simple diffusion process. As you can see over here, the oxygen which is produced over here, it comes out of the stomata, and the CO2 is it gets into the leaf through the stomata. Okay, and this is the simple equation of photosynthesis. So CO2 plus H2O in presence of light energy, it gives glucose plus oxygen. Now photosynthesis, it has two phases, which is light dependent and light independent. Light dependent means it needs the presence of light, where it converts light energy into chemical energy, and it produces ATP molecules, which are the energy molecules, which in turn is used up in light independent reaction, which is the dark reaction. The light independent reaction, it uses ATP to produce simple sugars. Now light dependent reaction foremost requirement is it requires light, and it occurs in chloroplast, that is in the thylakoids. Okay. Now here the chlorophyll, it traps the energy which comes from the light, and the light, it again what it does, it excites the electrons. Now the electron, it goes into the electron transport chain, and which is a series of proteins which are found in the thylakoid membrane. Now here the light dependent reaction, as we continue, the energy which is lost throughout the electron transport chain, it is used to recharge ATP from ATP, and you have NADPH also, which is produced from this chain. So ATP and NADPH is produced from this chain. Now NADPH is the source energy which it stores energy until transferred to the stroma. Here the total byproducts are the ATP and NADP and oxygen, which are the byproducts of the light dependent reaction. Okay. Now how we get oxygen as byproduct, that is the photolysis. Photolysis means in the presence of light, breaking of water. Okay, so which this replaces lost electrons by splitting the water. Okay. As you can see over here, the light, it is the chlorophyll, it attracts the light energy, and then it passes the energy through the electron transport, and you can see the electrons getting in, and this energized electrons, it splits H2O, that is the photolysis, and then it gives out H plus and NADPH, and here it bonds with ADP to form ATP, which both are used it is used in light independent reaction. Light independent reaction, that is dark reaction, which does not require light, which is also known as Calvin cycle. The light dependent reaction occurred in the thylakoids. Here it occurs in the stroma of chloroplast, and it requires oxygen, and ATP and NADPH, which developed in the light reaction, is used here as fuel, and this makes glucose sugar from CO2 and hydrogen. Okay, so here CO2, ATP and NADPH, it loses and it forms the glucose. Now the factors which affects photosynthesis, first is the light intensity. As the light increases, rate of photosynthesis increases. Then carbon dioxide also, if the amount of CO2 increases, rate of photosynthesis also increases. Then the temperature, if you have low temperature, then rate of photosynthesis also lowers. If the temperature increases, rate of photosynthesis also increases. But yes, if temperature is too hot, the rate drops. As you can see the curve over here. You can see at low temperature it is low, and high temperature it is high, but if the temperature is too hot, the rate drops. And this is in short the Calvin reaction. So here it happens in the thylakoid and this happens in the stroma. So here this is the light dependent and here with the light independent reaction where the end product is glucose with the help of ATP and NADPH. So this was in short what photosynthesis is all about.
So let us discuss about polymers. They are also known as macromolecules. So the question that arises is, what is a polymer? So polymer is a abbreviation of two terms, that is poly means many and mer means units. So polymers are generally high molecular weight molecules made up of small repeating unit. So this repeating unit is known as a monomer. So in this case, A is a small molecule which is getting repeated, so the A is a monomer. So what are monomers as such? Monomer is a low molecular weight compound that can be connected obviously via a covalent bond to give or to result into a polymer. If you have very few monomers which are connected via covalent bond, you have a low molecular weight polymer. This type of polymers are known as oligomers because the polymer chain is shorter in this case. Polymers can be made up of same type of monomers or can be of different types of monomers. There is a term that is copolymer. A copolymer is made up of two or more monomers, and the copolymer can be classified into three different types, that is a random copolymer, alternating copolymer and a block copolymer. So what do we understand by random copolymer? Here A is a monomer and the another monomer is B. In case of random copolymer, if you have a single unit of A, not necessarily the next will be B. There may be more than one unit of B, or there may be more than one unit of A, and this repeating pattern may go on randomly. Whereas in case of an alternating polymer, you have a more organized or a more ordered arrangement. You have monomer unit A followed by a monomer unit B followed by a monomer unit A, and so on and so forth. So you have alternative monomer units one after the other. Whereas in case of block copolymer, you have multiple numbers of monomer A connected with each other, followed by multiple number of monomers of molecule B connected with each other, and this type of blocks of monomers are being connected to each other in case of a block copolymer. So let us discuss the broad classification of polymers. Polymers are classified as thermoset, thermoplastics, elastomers, thermoplastic elastomers. Broadly, there can be two sets of classifications or two general classification terms, that is thermoset and a thermoplastic. A thermoset is a cross-linked polymer which cannot be melted in real sense. So for example, tires, rubber bands, etc. Whereas in case of a thermoplastic, you can mold the polymer just like you melt a compound. There is another class, that is elastomers. These elastomers, obviously the term itself is defining it, it has got some sort of elasticity. In this type of polymers, the polymers can stretch and then return to their original form. So they can regain their original form. So there is a change in the shape and dimensions, but upon the release of the stress, there is regain of the original form of the polymer. So this type of polymers are known as elastomers. Most often thermoset polymers show this elastomer property. There is another terminology, that is thermoelastic polymers. These are elastic polymers that can be melted. Say for example, sole of a tennis shoe. Now, what is the other way of classifying a polymer? Polymers are also classified on the basis of the monomer or the repeating unit from which they are made. Say for example, if you have an alkene or an olefin, if you connect these olefins by covalent bonding from olefin monomer, you have polyolefins, you have polyesters. So you have an alcohol and an acid reacting to form an ester. You can have amides, so you can have polyamides, you can have a polyurethane. So depending on the type of monomers, or sometimes even on the type of reaction or the linkages that are formed, like the ester linkage, amide linkage, urethane linkage, or on the basis of the functional group, polymers can be classified. More importantly, nature has its own macromolecules, or also known as the biomolecules, or in terms of the chemical sense, the polymers. So the natural polymers, the examples are polysaccharides, deoxyribonucleic acid, proteins, etc. So let us focus on the polyolefins. So as discussed, they are generally made up by covalent bond connections of multiple alkene units. So if you have a monomer which is ethylene, it will undergo polymerization to form a polyethylene. Similarly, if you have propylene, you will get a polypropylene. If you have an aromatic linkage to an alkene, say for example a styrene, you can form polystyrene, and you can have very nice glass like shiny crystals of polystyrene. If you have vinyl chloride as a monomer, you can have polyvinyl chloride, PVC, which is a common plastics, and even in this room you can have the PVC pipes visible, which are used by the electricians. If you have tetrafluoroethylene in the household, the non-stick cookwares or the utensils like a non-stick pan, it is the coating which is mentioned. If you observe the pan or the utensil carefully, you will come across that the coating diameter is mentioned in some units. So that coating is nothing but a polymer, that is polytetrafluoroethylene, or the trade name Teflon, and this Teflon has high antipathy for water, or it is a water hating substance, and that's why the food that does not stick on the vessel if it is fried on a cooked on a vessel consisting of polytetrafluoroethylene. Similarly, you can have polyesters, polyamides, also polyaramides, or also known as aramides. So a very common example of an polyester, which is quite important as a fabric. The monomer in this case on the left hand side is terephthalic acid. Upon reaction with ethylene glycol, you have formation of a polyethylene terephthalate, or commonly known as a polyester. A very common polymer which is important in the industry is nylon 66. The monomers or the starting material or the raw material for during the formation of nylon 66 is adipic acid and 1,6-diaminohexane. So you have an addition reaction forming an amide linkage resulting in nylon 66. Then you might have come across the bulletproof jackets or the armor which are quite common in the defense industry. Now these jackets are made up of a very high molecular weight polymer, that is Kevlar. The common name for such polymers which are used in the bulletproof jackets is Kevlar, but basically they are polyamides or basic aromatic amides, also known as aramides, and Kevlar can withstand a very high impact, even that of a bullet coming from a gun. Similarly, you have NHC double bond O double O linkage, that is polyurethane linkage, and polyurethanes are quite common in the field of composites or adhesives and also in the field of polyurethane foams or the mattresses, the modern mattresses which are made up of polyurethane foams. Natural polymers. A natural rubber, the repeating unit or the monomer in this case is isoprene. Upon polymerization, what you form is a polyisoprene. So natural rubber can also be polymerized into a polyisoprene. Similarly, a common sugar, that is glucose or beta D glucose, you can have a polymer that is formed from the reaction of multiple units of glucose, that is cellulose, which is a naturally available polymer. Similarly, you have a protein. Protein is nothing but a polymer made up of several small units which are amino acids, and these are connected by the C double bond ONH linkage. And more importantly, in the cells you have nucleotide, and these nucleotides are very important as far as the body functions are concerned. You have deoxyribonucleic acid, which is formed from polymerization of various nucleotides, which basically the nucleotides are obviously formed from amino acids. So if you really want to go about the sequence, amino acid reacts to form a nucleotide, and then these nucleotides then continue to form the deoxyribonucleic acid. So why are polymers unique? What makes them different from the other simple low molecular weight compounds? As discussed earlier, polymers have high molecular weight. They are also known as macromolecules. Because of this high molecular weight, they have properties much different than the normal low molecular weight. One of the important phenomenon is the chain entanglement. Polymers, these chains upon heating, the polymer will not straight away melt, or it will not immediately melt, but when you heat a polymer sample, before melting the chains start to get disentangled. Because of that disentanglement, the polymer starts to flow, but it will flow very slowly, whereas in case of a low molecular weight compound, upon heating it will melt within a very narrow temperature range once its melting point is reached, whereas in case of polymers there is no immediate melting. Initially there is disentanglement upon heating, so the polymer chains start to move slowly, and once they reach the glass transition temperature, the flow increases. Or the other way around, below a glass transition temperature, the chains are becoming more rigid, and the polymer does not move, it becomes inflexible. So if you have a linear polymer, if you allow it to stretch, the chains can be stretched. However, in this type of linear polymers, once you have stretched a linear polymer, it will not return to its original form. Whereas in case of a cross-linked polymer, upon stretching, the chains which stretch, or in other sense, the cross links which are holding the polymer chain together, they will hold the polymer structure together. They may change their configuration to a smaller extent, but upon release of the stretch or the stress, the polymer returns to its original form. Now, how does one formulate or synthesize polymer? There are two major classes of polymer formation. One is addition polymerization, another is step growth polymerization. So, in case of addition polymerization, the name itself indicates that you carry out an addition reaction. So, the polymer here grows by sequential addition of monomers via a reactive site. It can have a linear growth along the monomer chain length. Here you can have very high molecular weight polymer at the end of a reaction. Whereas in case of a step growth polymerization, you have monomers, they react to form small oligomers. So, obviously it is a stepwise process. You have to first of all form some small oligomers, low molecular weight compounds. These oligomers further combine or join together to form the bigger molecules, and these bigger oligomers then react to form the ultimate polymer, which is high molecular weight. Now, the major difference between these two types of synthesis is that in case of addition polymerization, the chain growth is linear, and more importantly, you can have a maximum molecular weight at very early stage of a reaction. Whereas in case of step growth polymerization, the chain growth can be exponential, it can be manifold. Moreover, you can have molecular weight, maximum molecular weight, it can be obtained only at the later stages of the reaction. So, whereas in case of addition polymerization, at the early stages you have a high molecular weight polymerization, whereas in case of step growth polymerization, you have molecular weight at the later stage of a reaction. Excuse me for that. And then let us see how the addition polymerization take place. So, in case of addition polymerization, one of the important mechanisms is, or the reaction that is responsible for addition polymerization is free radical polymerization. So, you have a free radical indicated by a asterisk in this scheme reacting with a monomer A, generating a new free radical which again attacks another monomer of A, and in this way there is a continuous propagation of this free radical by its reaction with other monomers. Now, this free radical can propagate for quite a longer duration. So, in order to have its termination, you have to react this free radical with another molecule so that this free radical becomes stable and does not react further. Otherwise, the reaction will go on at a very exponential rate. So, the termination of this reaction